Alright, let's try that again.
Right? Roast. Right, roast.
This is actually a re-record. I recorded the entire thing only to find out that the file corrupted. Yeah. Thank goodness it wasn't a bloody reaction, that's all I'm gonna say. I can at least re-answer these questions without having to It's pretty hard to re-watch an episode of The Walking Dead and react. It wouldn't be a reaction, it would just be a watch-along. Anyway, guys, we're running short on time, so I'm going to get this straight underway. Excuse the squeaky chair. I've noticed recently... Oh, of course it stops squeaking as soon as I try and show you guys. My chair is becoming more and more squeaky, which is not ideal. Was Negan trying to upset Rick by saying that everything they had built would fall apart sooner or later? Or maybe he was speaking from experience. What is his purpose? What do you think? I think Negan is a very smart person. I've kind of said this in the most recent episode of The Walking Dead. I spoke a bit about how I feel like one of the downfalls of the way we are approaching the whole Negan saviors thing is we're just disregarding everything Negan's saying like he's just being sadistic, right? But my theory is, right, that a lot of what he's saying has a lot of truth behind it. Yes, there's the whole Lucille, Bat, Scary Man kind of persona, which I think adds a vagueness to everything, because it makes you sort of think to yourself, oh, for God, go away, you're just salty because this is working. You're salty, that's literally it. I think they very intentionally hidden his experience and his intelligence behind the saltiness. I don't think he's salty too much. I think it's more just he's kind of just sitting there I told you. And I don't think he seems to have that big of an issue waiting for whatever to materialize. Because I do think he's right. I think that he is right. Now, do I think there's a bit of him that's trying to make, tease Rick? Yeah, a little bit. Obviously there's a part of him which I just think doesn't like Rick, right? So I think there is an element of that, but genuinely, I think he was speaking from experience and it was truthful. The way he delivered it may have sounded crap, but I don't think he's lying. I don't think his primary intention is to upset Rick. Let me put it that way. Yeah, like I said, I think that's one of the biggest flaws of the way we're going about this. I think we are disregarding way too much about Negan. I think he will be right in a lot of ways, and I think he's wrong in a lot of ways. My whole overarching sort of theory about Rick and Negan is eventually they're both going to realize that they're both a necessity. They both need to exist for a world to move forward. It can't be one or the other. Negan's way failed, Rick's way failed. Well, not failed, but I think it will. So I think there's we're going to see both downfalls. I don't think Rick's wrong in anything that he's thinking. I just think that there's so much more to leading than one person's way of doing it. But anyway, so yeah, I think a lot of what he's saying is about experience. I think his purpose genuinely will and has always been to save people, right? In his weird way, which comes across as twisted, I think his purpose is to create a group that can survive. Yes, that means the consequence sometimes is death, same as in our group. I think his purpose will always be to be a savior. His purpose isn't to torment Rick. And this all leads into another question that I saw someone put about the governor as well. So we'll get into that in a second. I think it's actually the next question. Yeah, it is. His purpose kind of has nothing to do with Rick. That's one of the reasons why I kind of have faith that his character will become important. I don't think he's the sort of person where, say, Rick's way worked perfectly. Negan then notices that his way was wrong. If that went that way, which I don't think it will, but if it did, I don't think Negan would keep trying to disrupt what Rick's doing. And I don't even think it's about disrupting what Rick's doing. He's just trying to be a savior in his own way. Hear me out, right? Let's just have a hypothetical situation. If right at the start of Negan, we bolted and left miles and miles and miles away, just disappeared, do I think he would chase us? No, that's not his purpose. I hope that's kind of answered my thought on him, by the way, because I've been thinking a lot about his purpose, and I always sort of said, what happens if his purpose disappears? What happens? I thought the whole purpose disappearing would be the saviors disappearing, but I don't think that's enough, something will go wrong with us and it will just reignite his purpose again. Who's more evil, the governor or Negan in your opinion? Because personally, I think the governor's so much more evil. Yeah, so I've already spoken about this. I think I spoke about this quite a long time ago, that I'd rather have Negan or the governor? I can't remember. Back then, I actually can't remember what I said back then. But now, I'd rather have Negan. I know, I think I did say that back in the day, because I think I said that Negan's more predictable. You know what his purpose is and what he's doing, and it's like, he is survivable, I think I said. Yeah, I did. I said Negan is a survivable villain. I'm starting to have issues using that word now. Negan is a survivable villain. The governor was not. As we saw with the governor, we tried to offer a peaceful way forward, which we thought would be in his interests, but his greater interest took over. Okay, let me just lay this out, alright? I think both Negan and the governor started off probably trying to do the right thing. I think I sort of view the governor as, I don't know, but I kind of get the feeling like the governor's a bit more narcissistic. I don't know what it is, but something about his character was a bit more stuck up. So he was a bit irritating anyway, like generally. I think the governor is more evil because he wasn't a savior. He didn't care about people outside of his bubble, and he was vengeful and nasty and all those different things. But I think he started from a good place. I think he is the perfect example of someone who becomes lost in the apocalypse. We've spoken about it a billion times, right? Everyone started from somewhere at some point. And the way I used to describe it is like, it's almost like a pendulum, right? So it sort of swings back and forth, good and bad. There's like this line in the middle where everyone sort of sits on, and some people already start down here, fair enough. But this pendulum sort of moves back and forth. It gets shaken up by the apocalypse, right? Eventually, it's going to tilt too far on one side to the point where the balance, almost like gravity is on both sides, right? It's going to pull the wrong way. It's not going to be swinging anymore. And it's definitely not going to be stable. I think that very thing happened to the governor. Now, the funny thing is, if we use that same analogy, I don't think Negan's pendulum has completely flipped. You know how crazy it is to say that? This is the perfect way to describe it. I feel like the governor's pendulum was way off balance and completely pulled to the wrong direction. There was no coming back. I think everything up here was just dismantled. Negan, I see him sort of swinging, you know what I mean? Like, he's all over the place. At times I can see, oh yeah, like he's got the right concepts and the right way of thinking about things, but his execution that feels off, oh my gosh. So yeah, I wouldn't say either of them started off more evil. The governor is more selfish. The apocalypse made him more selfish, and trauma damaged him beyond belief. Less survivable, more chaotic, even at times more sadistic, right? Anyway, we've spoken about that a billion times. We don't need to sort of dive into that too much. Do you think all the communities working together is actually a realistic future? Between the saviors struggling to survive with the extortion of other communities, Maggie having to feed both her people and the saviors, many disagreeing with Rick's decision to spare Negan, and the hordes getting bigger and bigger. Is the world Carl believed impossible, or was it just a dream? Or was it just a dream all along? Look, I think Carl's vision is achievable. There's just a billion different things that need to work for it to work. I've spoken gazillions of times now about how it's not just about two people needing to agree. There are so many moving parts of this. It's like a ginormous Lego set. If a one piece is missing, it's just not right. It's not going to work right. Something's going to go wrong eventually. You're always going to have a spare part somewhere. Like, it's just not right. So it's not like it's not achievable to build it perfectly. It's just, we can't expect such a design to just work from the get-go. That is overly optimistic and slightly delusional logic, right? It's a sort of thing that would take years and years of building trust and relationships and people having faith in a leader and working together, and like, there's so many different things, right? And we're on the path to do it, but I don't believe that we're not gonna deviate at some point back and forth between finding it. Do you know what I mean? I've actually already said this quite a few times that I think we are going to see the worst of the new world before we see the better of it. I think there will be a pretty big sort of eruption at some point, and we will be tested. And whether Carl's vision comes true or not, I don't know. Look, he's going to have to go through a whole lot of crap before we even remotely get close to finding that out. It's just, I think Carl's vision isn't just about the final product. I think that's where a lot of people may view Carl's vision as slightly wrong. It's Carl's vision I don't sort of read as just the final product of peace and harmony. I see it as the journey to getting there, making the right decisions to getting there. Rick doing what he did was honoring Carl's vision, right? It was doing right by Carl's vision. So I think it's more of a philosophy and a way to act more than just a final destination. Do you know what I mean? So even if by chance we never get to Carl's vision, right? It never comes true. We all just end up back at square one with people are disagreeing, because you're always going to have people that don't agree with these kinds of things, right? even if it gets to the point where it doesn't reach the final destination, I think living by what he believed in is what he would have wanted, right? More than anything. I think that's achieving Carl's dream. I think Carl's dream was just more than just everyone in the final destination. It was about seeing his family and the people he cares about not being consumed by this world. That's what I think, if you look deeper into what it means, I think that's what it sort of is. Every decision we make, what would Carl do? What would Carl's vision need to come true? And even if it doesn't, doing our best is what kind of counts, right? Being human. So yeah, I think it's realistic, but it's not easy. There are always going to be people that disagree, but I think there is a way forward. I just can't see it, right? And obviously, I think the whole point is we all shouldn't be able to see it at this point. This is all murky water, right? If we could see it, it would be true. Yes, I have faith. Do you have any hopes for Negan this season in particular? Yes. So my hope, well, if we're talking from a writing perspective, what I think's going to happen with Negan, I think he's going to witness why his purpose made sense to him. I don't think putting him in a cage and making him watch the future be built, I don't think that is going to work the way we think it would. I think what's going to happen is he's going to be put on display to see how this is built, and he's going to see exactly why he was who he was anyway, right? And it's just going to reaffirm that belief, and if he ever gets out, which I think he will, it'll be one of those things where, like, he just continues to believe what he believes because of what he's seen again. And maybe he's not the only one which starts to understand why Negan was Negan, you know? Maybe the whole concept of being Negan starts to be understood more by our people as well. I really hope there's not more darkness from him, but I can't tell. It feels like the Savior arc is semi-finished, but at the end of the day, it's like, it very well could not be. I mean, we've seen the uprising things, and yeah, it's not going to be simple. I hope we see him build relationships with people in our group. That's one of the weirdest things, right? If he's gonna live in our communities, eventually people will have to build connections with him. And the thing I find funny is the person I imagined doing that back in the day was Carl in the situation, right? If he was put in a cage and kept at Alexandria, I just imagined Carl visiting him and talking to him and all these different things, but obviously that's not gonna happen. But yeah, I just hope we see development. I get a gut feeling we're gonna see worse before good, but hey, eventually I envision a good. Do you ever think that you would love a TV show so much? No, actually, like at the moment I'm in a like toss-up, because I'm watching The Walking Dead right now for the first time, so it feels like it's becoming my favorite show, which is, so obviously there's a recency bias, right? But I'm also rewatching Game of Thrones, and oh my god, these two shows are just, like, I just love it. I just love being involved in the world, the universe. It's freaking amazing. Do you think with enough time, Negan will come to terms with what he's done and try to better himself while helping and leading the group? Yes. I think I've kind of answered that question already. Yes. On both sides of the stick, Rick will see why Negan was important, and Negan will see why Rick is important, and his purpose will change. I don't think his purpose is permanent, right? His purpose is pretty damn strong, but it's not a permanent purpose. I think I'll finish the show with a whole different perspective on him. It's already evolving, as you guys have seen. If you haven't seen the previous Beyond the Walls, I even spoke at some point about what he did as heroic, especially early on. So if you want to hear about that, how do you think Carl will be fitting into this new community dynamic if he was still around, but the outcome of the war was essentially the same? Do you believe that he would be resentful of the fact Negan was spared, or do you think he would be helping lead Alexandria? Would he possibly be working on smooth things over with Maggie? Blah, 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 blah. Obviously, I don't think he'd be resentful of Negan being spared. I think he, like in his vision, he always imagined it being like an everyone thing, right? That was the first act of moving forward, would be with Negan, because that's where we've been so stuck for so long. Honestly, hear me out, right? If my vision of where he would be, I have this weird imagination of him sort of being a floater. So Rick's at Alexandria, Maggie's at Hilltop, King's at the Kingdom. I just have this vision of Carl living at Alexandria, but floating between all the communities. So like being like the son of Rick Grimes, you know. And I see him actively trying to see his vision come to life, and I see him struggling with it, because obviously there will be moments when he worries that, oh gosh, like what could this draw my dad back in, or could this disrupt this, or what happens if this happens? Like I see him as being a thinker, a carer. I see him being everywhere and anywhere he's needed. Yes, I see him at the center of the negotiations between Maggie and the Savior's compound. I see him constantly talking to Negan to try to understand him. I see him being the like connection between Negan, the Saviors, or Negan and our group. Or Negan and Rick, really, because I think there's always this brick wall in between Regan. For God's sakes! It feels like there's always a brick wall between Negan and Rick, which is, like, they can't see what each other are saying or thinking. There's just this brick wall. I don't know. I feel like Carl would be the person that could create like a bridge between it. I see him evolving into like a whole mixture of Herschel. Well, actually, let me just bring this up because I've been thinking about this. I remember when ages back I was thinking about Carl and like how cool Carl will be because he's got his mother, he's got his father, and he's grown up with a bunch of incredible adults, right, that have all shaped his upbringing. Every single adult has got their own way of dealing with things, their own opinions, their own this, and it's, I don't want to say they're closed-minded, but they don't have the benefit of growing up in this world. They were already grown up, so they're basically biased by their past. Carl and anyone born or growing up during the apocalypse have an advantage of seeing it from all perspectives, and they're not raised by two people. They're raised by the world, nature, and all the people around them. Carl, I see a bit of Maggie, a bit of Herschel, a bit of Daryl, a bit of Rick, a bit of Laurie, a bit of every single person, right? I see everyone in him. So I see him being, like, that's why I was so shocked that he died, because I'm like, this kid is like everything that we've created. All the good we've created, all the good in the characters that we have grown to love was in this kid. So it's like, dang, they just bodied him. I always saw him as being the one that was like ready for change, and yeah. I don't know. I saw him as the heart of the group. So yeah, that's how I see Carl. Do you have any death predictions for the season? This is the last question. Now, I don't know. There are a couple people which I'm a little bit shaky about. So the first couple, let me just go over this for you. Tara. I think her like going out to get Oceanside and convincing them like that's happened now. So I'm a little bit like, oh crap. You know, I don't know, just this weird feeling. I'm worried about Enid. I'm a little bit worried about Sadiq. Okay, I'm not going to give you exact names, but I'm worried about Sadiq or Enid. I'm worried about Tara. And I'm worried about Gabriel or Jadis. I don't know. I'm just worried. Those are the characters that I'm worried about. I'm not going to give you exact names until I get a bit further into the season, but yeah. Death predictions. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to edit this straight away before work. Hopefully I edit enough of it before work so I can edit the rest after and then release it tonight. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for new content every single week. And of course, follow the Instagram, DanRay with 2 Ds. Don't forget to follow the Discord. I don't think there's anything else to follow. Keep an eye out for Beyond the War posts, because they are now being posted regularly-ish. Keep an eye out for the Walking Dead episode, which hopefully is out tomorrow or the day after. Keep an eye out for Telltale. Keep an eye out for moi. This has been Dan. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Right, roast. Right, roast.